couple of days ago, I got married, but unfortunately that day was not without its own problems. My ex-husband showed up and tried to create a ruckus, and it was just really dramatic and unnecessary. I was having a small wedding, so I really did not think it was necessary for me to have security. But now, in hindsight, I probably should have made sure that anybody unwanted couldn't have entered my wedding venue. And I probably should have seen this coming because he has always been very bitter about the fact that I'm the one who initiated the divorce. And he has just never been able to come to terms with the fact that I was the one who had left him. I guess he's also upset about the fact that he had to pay me alimony. But trust me, it was all well deserved. For context, I first met my ex at a party when I was 23 years old. We started dating after he asked me out, and at 25, I got married to him. Then we were together for 5 years until I was 30. Obviously, he wanted children, or at least I did. So we kept trying, but for almost 3 years, we had no luck. In the end, it was getting pretty frustrating and we were having a lot of fights. So already things were tense between us. And then I found out about his affair. Not just his affair, but I also found out about the fact that he had a child with this other woman. It was that which finally broke me, and I ended up fighting for a divorce. It was when I was sorting through our finances when I noticed some discrepancies, and then I confronted him about it. He was forced to tell me the truth. I think by then he was sick of hiding things from me, and he was sick of being with me as well, which is why he decided to tell me the truth. Apparently, in the second year of our marriage, he had had an affair with a co-worker. It went on for a couple of months, and then she found out she was pregnant. He begged her to terminate it, but she decided to keep the baby, and she told him that she was going to tell me if he did not support her financially. So he has continued to do so. He tried to defend all of it to me, telling me that it really meant nothing to him, and that the only reason he has been in touch with her is because of the money, and he has never hooked up with her again. The only reason he even talks to her is so that he can continue to see his son. And apparently he had been leading this whole secret life the whole time that we were married. And that was not even the worst part. The worst part was that after I found out, he then tried to put a positive spin on it. I'm not even joking. He tried to tell me that we had been together for quite a long time, and he genuinely loves me, and that affair was nothing but a mistake. So he wanted me to know he wanted to make things work with me, and that the affair, or that woman, meant nothing to him. But now that I know about the whole thing, we can choose to move on. And the fact that I know about his son as well is a blessing in disguise, because I was struggling to get pregnant. And in a way, it was convenient that I had found out about his son, because now we could choose to raise him together, like mother and father, and everybody wins. That was a serious suggestion that he made, and obviously I lost it. We had a huge fight. I screamed at him for hours, and then I decided to pack up and leave. Even after that, he kept bugging me, telling me to come back to him, saying that we can still sort everything out, but that was not going to happen. I filed for a divorce, and because he was pretty successful in his career, he had to pay me alimony. I'm guessing that's what he was actually bitter about. The fact that I chose to leave him instead of trying to work things out with him and treating him like God's personal blessing to me. Anyway, after the divorce, I never spoke to him, but he continued trying to get through to me somehow, texting me every few months, telling me that we could have made it work, telling me that he hates me. I kept blocking him. And he just kept making new accounts, and after a while, I would just read his messages and feel pity because he was truly pathetic. I didn't even know what he was up to, but I guess he stayed updated. Anyway, it's been 4 years since the divorce, and I think I have moved on with my life. I think he should have done that, but I don't think he has. 2 years ago, I started dating my husband, and a couple of months ago, he proposed. I said yes. A few weeks later, he had posted about it on social media. I'm guessing that's how he found out, but I still don't understand how he found out about the venue. Anyway, that's for me to figure out later because I'm sure that whoever was responsible for telling him, I'm going to find out and I'm going to cut them out of my life. But the point is, somehow he was able to find where I was getting married, and he decided to show up at my wedding, and during the speeches, he decided to interrupt with a little speech of his own. When he showed up, we were already pretty surprised, and my husband was on his way to drag him out of the place. But I was the one who told him to stay back. And I told everybody else to stay in their place because I really wanted to know what he had to say. He had already interrupted the wedding, and I knew that whatever he had to say, it was going to be something mind-numbingly stupid. So I wanted to give him a chance to make a complete fool out of himself. So then he decided to speak. And like I had expected, he said the stupidest thing ever. He decided to go on to call me a hypocrite. He said that I was a horrible human being for leaving him, even though he had never left me, despite the fact that I could not give him a child. He said I was selfish and egoistic, and the reason why he said all of that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Yeah. He said all that because I was willing to be a stepmother to my husband's children, but I was not willing to raise his affair baby with him when I found out about that situation. I'm not even saying this to myself. He said this in his little speech. He was fuming, and he basically went on to say that it was practically the same thing. Yet, I was being a hypocrite because I just did not want to spend the rest of my life with him. And yet here I am, doing everything that I was not willing to do for him with another man. Which is, firstly, just an insane take to have a situation like this, but even apart from that, it's not the same situation at all. In fact, I can't even imagine how he drew that parallel. First of all, I knew about my husband's children all along, and I get along well with them. Besides, I don't have to raise them on my own or anything. He just has them for half the week because he's still on good terms with his ex-wife. And I'm fine with this arrangement. But why on earth does that mean that I should have been fine with him bringing home a baby that he had with somebody he cheated on me with, and then expecting me to raise that child with him even though I don't have anything to do with the kid? And I didn't even know about their existence? Besides, after my divorce, I kind of gave up on the idea of having children of my own because it just did not seem that appealing anymore. And I was done with the whole chapter. I'm fine with this whole arrangement that I have with my husband and his stepchildren. They are really sweet, but they have their own mom. And I'm fine with that. So really, these situations could not have been more different. Also, let me just say, it's literally my choice. Literally creating the same situation, but this time I chose to stay with the man. It still wouldn't happen to be any of his business. It still would have been my choice. And I'm just saying, hypothetically, because I would never do something like that and stay with a man who had let me down like this. It still would not have been an excuse for him to show up and try to disrupt an event for me. I mean, what a weirdo. Anyway, like I said, I knew he was going to say something stupid like this, so I let him go on. And after he was done, he was probably expecting somebody to be on his side or something, but people literally burst out laughing, and the reaction was exactly the opposite of what he had probably expected. He seemed surprised, and then, just to rub salt in the wound, I walked up to him and I thanked him for providing a free clown act on my wedding day because I didn't know that this was what the event was missing. And then I told him to pack up his freak show and get the heck out before I called the police. He walked away, cussing me out all the way, but I didn't care. I felt like He had just made the whole thing even better because now he was totally humiliated. And there was very little chance of him contacting me ever again. Besides, he was the one who started all of this, so I don't think I have any reason to feel guilty. But last evening I received a message from my ex-in-laws, and that has made me rethink certain things. For context, my ex-in-laws have always been very nice to me. And during the divorce, they had told me that I was doing the right thing, and the last time we had spoken was a couple of days after I filed for divorce. They told me they wished me all the best for my future. They seemed genuinely upset about everything that was happening, so I have a good impression of them. And to be very honest, even throughout our marriage, they were very nice people. So for them to reach out to me and tell me that they thought it was humiliating for me to have treated my ex like that at my wedding was a bit humbling. They said that they could understand that my ex was the one who had instigated me. But instead of letting him go on and totally humiliate himself, I should have just called the cops and had him kicked out. From their message, I could understand that they thought it was a bit unsettling, and they said that my ex was quite miserable. Apparently, he has not been eating well. He hasn't even been sleeping, and he's been working from home, so he has not been focusing on his appearance either, and everything about him just screams miserable right now. They also told me that he really does love me, and that he has never been able to move on from me, and that they understand I made the right decision for myself, so they're not going to judge me for that. But they do think that I could have dealt with the situation better, because clearly my ex-husband is quite happy. Because happy and normal people don't do all this, and I should have been just a tad bit more sensitive. And they think that I should have kicked him out instead of humiliating him and insulting him like that, because that has taken a toll on his mental health, which has already been pretty bad ever since he found out that I was engaged, especially to a man who already had children. They told me that he has been miserable ever since he got divorced, that he really wants me back, and he's been in therapy and on meds for quite a while now. I obviously did not know about any of this, and I felt kind of weird about having treated him like that. But then again, I don't feel like it's totally my fault, you know. He was the one who started it, and he was the one who went to the extent of finding out where I was getting married, showing up, and then trying to create some sort of dramatic situation or whatever. He was the one who tried to insult me first. So why should I have let it go? If his parents are genuinely so concerned about him and his mental state, they probably should not have let him come out of his house on my wedding day in the first place. I don't know. I just feel like I'm not the one responsible for this, and I hate the feeling of being held responsible for something that I did not do. I'm not answerable for his bad behavior, and to be very honest, I don't even feel like I did anything that bad. The only reason I even think I'm questioning myself right now is because his parents are not really bad people. They had been nice to me even after I filed for a divorce. They had been supportive of my decision, so I don't understand why they would say all of this out of the blue. I can understand that they feel bad for their son, but that is not really my fault. I mean, what am I supposed to do? I'm just a bit confused about how to feel right now, so what do you guys think? AITA for humiliating my ex-husband at my wedding after he showed up uninvited and tried to insult me there first? Update 1. Hey, so guys, I told my husband. I told my husband about the message that I had received. I hadn't done that until recently because I honestly did not want to keep talking about it. But then, he's my husband. Of course he deserves to know. He tells me about his problems. I tell him about my dilemmas. That's how it works. The only reason I hadn't told him before I made that post was because I did not want to make it seem like I was obsessing over this whole situation with my ex. But then I realized that I don't need to act that way. He knows that he's a secure man, and I was right, because as soon as I told him, the first thing he did was make sure that I'm right. And then when I told him that I hadn't spoken about this with him as soon as I got the message, because I don't want to make it seem like I was getting too involved in this thing with my ex, he told me it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, if it's bothering me, it's bothering me. And my feelings are valid, you know. So yeah, anyway, we spoke, and it just made me realize I was completely right in believing that this is not my fault, because it isn't. Even my husband feels the same way, and so do my parents and friends. I've spoken to every single one of them, and even in the comments, people think that I'm only overthinking all of this because his parents were nice to me. But that doesn't mean anything. His parents are nice people, and of course, they care about their own son, which is why they think what I did was wrong. But at the end of the day, they have to understand the fact that their son has to take accountability for their own actions. You screw around, you find out what happens. That's how things work. And I'm not going to be made to feel responsible for somebody facing the consequences of their own actions. Basically, he is not the victim here. He has never been the victim in any of the situations that have been there in our marriage. And yet I've always been made to feel like the victim. I'm done with that now. I'm not second guessing myself anymore, and I'm definitely not going to let myself feel sorry for him because he brought this on himself. Him being in therapy or him being on meds is not my problem. It's not my fault. He had the opportunity to have a good life with me, but he threw it away, so tough luck for him. I've moved on. I'm done with him, and I'm happy with my life now, and if he isn't, that's his problem, not mine. Update 2. Hey, so it's been a couple of weeks since my last update, and currently my husband and I are on our honeymoon. I was generally staying away from my phone because right now I just want to focus on having a good time. But then my ex and his family are being very annoying right now. A couple of hours ago, I got tagged in a post by my ex-mother-in-law claiming that I mentally broke her son. And there was a picture of him sobbing on the couch. I don't know why they chose that picture, probably to gain sympathy. And I guess it's working because everybody in the comments seems to hate me right now. It's mostly people on his side of the family, his friends, his co-workers and everything. But it's still pretty annoying because they think that I'm some sort of gold digger who took away his money and his happiness. In the post, she claimed that I took alimony even though I did not need it, which is just not true. The only reason I was not doing as well as him in my career was because I was doing all the work at home, and I knew that he was doing pretty well, so I had chosen to take the back seat. And at the time, I didn't have any regrets, but when I found out that he had been cheating on me, that's when I chose to take alimony. It was a significant amount, and I'm proud of it. I had to fight for it, and I got what I deserved, and I'm not going to feel sorry about it. He should be sorry about having cheated on me. And yet people seem to have forgotten about that in the comments. They just want to somehow make me look like the bad guy here, and I guess I was right about not feeling too sorry for my ex-in-laws. Because clearly they don't respect me as much as I thought they did, because if they had, they wouldn't be doing weird things like this. Anyway, I blocked them. I don't want anything to do with them anymore. And I just hope they leave me alone now, because if they think I'm going to come to their son with an apology for what happened with the wedding, then they are very wrong. I have nothing to be sorry about. I already know that. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise either. I'm just here to have a good time with my husband. And yeah, I've obviously told him about what happened, and he has just told me that we're going to deal with this once we get back home. But until then, I just have to keep them blocked and hope that this blows over, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I just hope that we don't have anything to deal with once we get home. I just hope that this is the end of it, because it's getting really freaking annoying. Update 3. So We came back home a couple of days ago, and today I finally found out who it was that had leaked the date and venue of my wedding. It was exactly the person I thought it was going to be. It was the one common friend that we still have. To be honest, I was not willing to accept it, but all along I knew that it had to be her because she's the only common link between us. We had met at her party. She knows him from college and she knows me from high school. So that's where we had met, and she has been our friend all along. But I had just thought that she had chosen me after the divorce because that's how it seemed to be. She seemed to hate his guts. She used to talk crap about him with me after the divorce, and it was pretty evident from the way she spoke about him that she did not think he had done the right thing. But then I guess I was wrong. For the past couple of weeks, I had been thinking about who could have possibly revealed this information about my wedding to my ex, so that he showed up. And because the guest list was pretty small, there were not really enough people who could have done something like this. My friends and family obviously would not have, and she was a friend too, a pretty good one of mine. So I did not want to think that she would be capable of doing something like that. But a couple of days ago, I just came out and asked her if it was her because I couldn't think of anybody else who had a reason to keep in touch with him. For a few days, she didn't reply. And then today she responded to me saying that she was really sorry, but it was actually her. And she had not intended to tell him, but it just happened. Apparently he had somehow found out about my engagement, and then he kept bugging her to tell him when and where I was getting married. Not because he wanted to show up or anything, but just because he wanted to know. Then he came to meet her in person, and he practically begged her on his knees to tell him. So she couldn't say no because she felt so bad for him, and that's how she ended up telling him. She wanted me to know that she was very sorry about everything she'd done, especially about the fact that she had pretended that she had no contact with him, even though they were on speaking terms, because they wished each other on birthdays and other occasions. Yes, that's not a lot, but even then, they still spoke to each other and were cordial. I felt really betrayed. I didn't even say anything to any of her texts, explaining herself, apologizing for everything. I just decided to block her because I'm done with all of this. I do not have time for any of this, and I'm not going to say I don't feel bad because that's not true. But I'm not going to hold a grudge because it's pointless. She did what she had to do. She betrayed my trust, and I'm done. I didn't even give a second chance to the man I loved because he betrayed me and my trust. So I don't understand why she thought that she would do something like this and I would be fine with it. That's not how things work with me. So yeah, whatever. It feels bad to have to cut off a friend like this because she and I were really good friends. But it is what it is. Update 4. Hi, so it has been 2 weeks since the incident where my ex-mother-in-law tagged me on that post on Facebook, and it was pretty stupid, so I blocked her. After that, I guess she did not have a way to contact me. So she just left me alone, and until recently, I did not have anything to do with my ex or his family. And I was living at peace with myself and everything else. I was working on my business. I was having fun with my husband and his kids and my family and friends. And these past 2 weeks were great. But of course, they had to somehow interrupt that as well. And this morning, my ex-in-laws and my ex decided to turn up at our house demanding an explanation for me for the behavior that I exhibited at my wedding, by allowing a depressed man to make a total fool of himself in front of so many people on purpose, just so that I could get back at him. I'm not even joking. That's what my ex-in-laws said that they were here for when I opened the door. My ex was just standing behind them quietly, refusing to even look me in the eye, looking at the ground instead, shuffling from one foot to another, and just being generally uneasy. I could see that this was probably not his idea, and if it were up to him, he would probably not even be here. Which is good, because it means he's trying to stay away from me, and I like that. It's best for both of us. But his parents are not okay with it, and I was not having this BS from them. I had only opened the door because they had been nice to me in the past, but that was my mistake. It was a mistake, and I learned not to make it. Anyway, when they told me that this is what they were here to discuss, I told them they were not welcome here. This was a new home that I had with my new family, and I wanted nothing to do with my old life. Out of respect for them, I had opened the door, but I didn't want to talk to them anymore because clearly they were not here to apologize for anything. They were only here to try and somehow gaslight me into believing that I am not the victim, but the perpetrator. And I need to apologize, and I was not going to allow them to do that. So I decided to slam the door shut. And when they tried yelling at me, I told them that if they did not leave, I was going to call the cops this time. And it would be pretty bad for all of them because already my ex-husband disrupted one event of mine just a few weeks back, and I'm sure he doesn't want me to bring that up and get a restraining order against him, which is something I do have in mind. Then my ex started practically begging his parents to leave, and after a while they left. When my husband came back home, I did discuss this with him, and we have decided to go through with my earlier threat and look into things vis-a-vis a restraining order. But to be very honest, I don't think that will be necessary because from the looks of it, my ex-husband is probably embarrassed of himself and ashamed of his actions, which took him long enough, and he probably does not want anything to do with me anymore. It was his parents who were creating trouble this time, but after the threat of cops, I think they will also leave me alone. However, if they don't, well, we can always talk to a lawyer and amp up the security around our property. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.